Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship. Do apologize for the delay. A little bit of technical difficulties has made us a little bit late in the broadcasting side. And once again, big apologies to everyone, and thank you very much for your patience. But the race has kicked off for this 1 hour 30-minute race. We're into the 1 hour 20s and taking a look at the drivers. Bernard Barkhuizen leading out the field with Kieran Patterson currently lying in second place, trying to pick up the charge. He will be trying to hunt him down. Mac van der Merwe in third place. Jean Leroux in fourth, followed by Daniel Rowe, Rian van der Race, Brandon Kruger, Justin Lotus in eighth, and Fiers in ninth place. 10th, Eric Kirstein, Kieran Duplessis in 11th. 12th is Richard van Heerde, Connor Bergstrom, Ruan Heineke, along with Moderate Claessens. Tyler Humphries out on the circuit as well. Conrad Fulskink, Darren Miller, Alan Patterson out there, the fastest ACC driver this side of South Africa. He's fighting out in the Lambo 19th. 20th, Sean Loureiro, along with Jaco Krobler, Marius Boertma, Cameron de Bastos, Mahath Musa, Charles Darden, Donna van Heerde, Martin Rotenbach, Jason Farmer, Loic Randabel, Jaco Nadir, Hansi Myberg at the back of the field with Paulo Tiers. And it does look like we have two drivers in the pits. That is Kilian Reyna and Irian Marais that are at the moment down the order. 2 mandatory pit stops needed for this race. And once again, thank you very much for everyone's patience. I do apologize once again for the late coming. It's not being fashionably late, and I do want to apologize for that. And for the RaceFace GT3 Championship Season 17, powered by SA Lube, it is absolutely great to have everyone out on the circuit as we see Daniel Rowe up against the back of Jean Leroux. This is one of our closest battles out on circuit. Daniel Rowe taking the fight to Leroux just ahead of him. With the mandatory pit stops coming into play, Cameron de Bastos has completed his first pit stop, so he will be getting himself ready to carry on with the race. He's lying in 23rd position. Now we're around Valencia, a very tricky circuit that can really push the boundaries of what you can do. It can either work out in one's favor or it can land up in the weeds. Anything is possible at this point with this circuit. And Valencia being a very tight circuit, a lot of drivers do point out that it's not the easiest to handle, especially for the likes of our front engines, while our mid engines, like the Ferrari, doing an absolutely bang-up job to keep the front engine of Daniel Rowe's BMW M4 GT3, who's now got the tow, will be trying to carry a bit of pace down the circuit as fast as he can. Can he get it all hooked up? And makes his way through. So just couldn't get it on the inside. Rian van der Race going to be tailing right behind them. We do have yellow flags for the number 777. That is the Tyler Humphries. And looks like he has gotten back to pits. Brandon Kruger out on circuit from the KSR factory team. He is having a huge amount of fun as well. A little bit further back from Rian van der Race, who is actually 2.1 seconds just ahead of him as they fight their way through. Bernard Barkhuizen going and doing a fantastic run. He's keeping ahead of Kieran Patterson. Managed to open up the small gap at this point over Kieran Patterson. But drive through for Cameron de Bastos is not how he wanted to kick off his night, especially this early stages of the race. Remember, this is an hour and 30 minutes of racing. And once again, apologize for the late coming. Daniel Rowe managing to get past Jean Leroux. So now Leroux putting the pressure onto him. This is a battle for 4th and 5th. Leroux looks up on the inside. Oh, a bit of door-to-door contact, a bit of understeer. And Daniel Rowe kind of landing off into the weeds a little bit. And Leroux does look like he did give the position back. And says, well, listen, didn't quite get it the way I wanted. Let's go back and try it again. Back up to the front, Bernard Barkhuizen still tailing out, and just ahead of them you can see Hansi Myberg. He is on to the back of Jaco Nadir, so that's going to also play in effect for our two leaders that are now going to start carving through our back markers. And with a fight going on ahead, you can be sure that Kieran Patterson is going to be looking to box in his competitor, Bernard Barkhuizen. These two are fighting for the championship. This is round 2 of the championship, so it's early stages at this point, but you want to make a big splash while you can. 9 laps into the race. Kieran doing everything he can to keep the pressure on. Taking a look over to the grandstands, we've got Daniel de Villiers going and checking in if we're all okay. Yes, Daniel, we're all fine. We're back. We're slow, but being the world's fastest back marker, I mean, I was a bit slow to the punch this time. Tenvo saying check Brandon Kruger for all the racing he's doing. There is Brandon Kruger. He's having a bit of fun out on the circuit. Just kind of sitting in a bit of no man's land at the moment. Well, our leaders starting to carve their way through. They have now caught onto the back of Paolo just ahead of them. Sorry, that might be Jaco Nadia. I do apologize, because Paolo's got a drive-through penalty that he needs to serve. So Jaco is going to move out the way, allow the leaders to come through. He's going to come slightly off the throttle. And doesn't want to lose out too much time at this point. But at the same time, he doesn't want to land up costing himself valuable time to the likes of Hansi Myberg just ahead of him. Just to remind everyone as well, Pitlink is up and going with the racing, so you can keep up to date with all the live timing as it goes. So you guys can keep a close eye on the amazing action we have here right at RaceFace.Pro for our Pitlink. Big thank you to our live timing crew getting that all sorted out. Tim, our cameraman, giving us all the shots. Jim, working frantically behind the scenes to give us information as we watch the racing. So, let's go through. Daniel Rowe managing to open a gap to LaRue. Ruan van der Race is now right onto the back of him. Brandon Kruger also slowly closing up the distance as well. This is where drivers will be starting to sit in a keep the tires okay, don't battle too hard, focus on the charge, and try to get them to the end. The two mandatory stops, all you have to do is put in a little bit of fuel. You don't have to change tires. So for a lot of these drivers, as we see Cameron de Bastos with a huge send, and that McLaren and now having to play a little bit of catch up to Martin Rotenbach. He nearly had a checkout going on there. Hansi Myberg moving out of the way for our leaders in the background. So with that being said, we've got this little battle that's going on. They will keep an eye on leaders, but Jason Farmer going and opening up distance after Martin Rotenbach getting a little bit too much time off circuit, loses out the drive. We'll have to focus on the charge back. Maeth Musa has pulled into the pits as well, so he's going and getting himself sorted. So Maeth Musa leading out everyone that's done their first pit stop. Eric Kirstein going to go side by side with Kieran Duplessis. Kieran going to try get on the inside, goes out a little bit wide, and that does open up for Eric Kirstein, trying to push back with the BMW. But Quinn Duplessis not backing down from the fight. That's Sky Tempest Racing colours on the McLaren. Beautiful, beautiful colour scheme. And for anyone that's not too familiar with it, well, go look up Jenson Button's time in GT3 racing. He went and sported those colours in one stage of the game. So taking a look at our top 10, we have got Bernard Barquez and Kieran Patterson, Mac van der Merwe, Daniel Rowe, Jean Leroux, followed by Ruan van der Race, Brandon Kruger, Justin Lotus, Jean Verfiers, and 10th is Kieran Duplessis, fighting their way around the circuit. And still, with lots and lots of time to go, the drivers will be considering what's going to be the best for them this race. How can they close up the time and get going once again? A little black bar on the screen will show our winners of the race, as we see Conor Bergstrom gets it all types of wrong. Heineke managing to survive that. The LTR running a little bit of a close shave with our pan and machine getting brought in by Connor, and Alan Patterson also scoring a bit of a pass there. Connor just getting straightened out behind him. So the Panda City going and losing out that little bit of drive. For many people that are asking, what is happening? How come we've got a white color board and a silver color board? Let me take you through that. So our pros are in white. Our pro-ams are in the silver. So when you see the silver boards, that is our pro-ams. So currently leading our pros is Bernard Barkhuizen. with Kieran Patterson and Mac van der Merwe in third. And then moving all the way down into 12th place. That is the start of our Pro-Ams. That is Richard van Heerden, Ren Heideke, and Mordre Klaassen, who is now making his way through. So those are your top three for both classes. And, Charles Darden, very, very slow. Very incredibly slow. Pulling into the pits. Not quite sure what happened to him as he was going and trying to get his car into the pits. So very, very slow. That did not help him, and we'll lose out a fair chunk of time. Mordre Klaassen dealing with Conrad Volskink all behind him, and Volskink, part of our Pro division, now battling it out with third of our Pro-Ams. We'll be looking to try and get past him as quick as possible to try and get onto the back of Eric Kirstein. Wants to make his way around. Going to look for the outside line. Going to go very, very wide. Sinks it in deep. Couldn't get it all sorted out. Going to have to get back onto the throttle from there. But to everyone joining us out in the grandstands, welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you guys here at the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship. Thank you very much for joining us. Do apologize for the missed out delay of the start. Running into a bit of technical difficulties. Did take out the punch on that one. That will be looked into further. It looked like it was a Unreal Engine failure, which very first that I've actually run into. It's nose to tail between Volskink and Klaassen as they push their way through, and Bernard Barkhuizen and Kieran Patterson still continuing their fight at the moment. So third place of our Pro-Ams trying to keep back Volskink at this point as they make their way through. The field still very, very close to one another, roughly about 1.5 seconds or less between every single one of these cars. And now this is where you're going to be considering your pit stops. Who's going to be able to take the top run and get going once again? Charles Darden, he's back out onto the circuit, so whatever went on with his car is able to get it going. He has completed all his pit stops and is the very first driver to complete all these pit stops. So going for a very early stage in this race. We do know the cars can run roughly about an hour on one tank by itself, but can the tires last this time, especially with the severe amount of punishment as Conrad Volskink goes out a little bit wide trying to get past Klaassen, couldn't get it all hooked up, and now that does allow likes of Darren Miller to start closing up the distance to them. We do have one of the PWR machines in the background there, and that might be Mr. Miller. Yes, it is. Darren Miller, Thriller Miller, out on track. He is giving everything he's got. Goes out a little bit wide and still keeping his foot in it. The PWSR team looking to make an impact right across the different leagues here in South Africa, and they're doing everything they can to ensure that they stand at the top of the team table. Eric Kirstein battling it out with Richard van Heerden, who tries to look up on the inside, couldn't get it all sorted out, goes out a little bit wider than planned, keeping within the toe. You can see slightly keeping to the left-hand side of that BMW of Eric Kirstein, just to keep him watching the mirrors, keep him focused, and hopefully cause him to miss a brake marker. Got close this time round, but Eric Kirstein still keeping the power on at this moment, getting a very tight line. That's going to compromise his exit as we see Richard van Heerden. He goes and gets a lot more pace out of the corner, instantly into the toe, trying to throw himself around over the curbs, really pushing as hard as he can to keep it all together. But unfortunately, Eric Kirstein just managing to have a little bit more aero is keeping that car firmly compressed to the circuit through the long left-hander. Alan Patterson making his way up through the order. He's in 17th position with Conor Bergstrom in 18th. Lerero going and falling down into 19th. So looks like we may have had a disconnect. Charles Darden and Paulo Tellers going in, also having a bit of a contact warning. So let's see if we can go back roughly about a minute and see where we can find where this contact happened between the two. That's Charles Darden in the Ferrari, Paulo in the Porsche. And Paulo trying to get a little bit more drive than Charles Darden, heading into turn one. Very difficult corner. You can easily outbrake yourself. If you go too wide, you will also have a problem. Looks like both drivers not compromised there. Paulo just having the rear snap out a little bit. Does slow down a little bit more than planned, and Charles Darden does try and come back at him. Looks for the inside line, all looking okay there. So I'm not seeing any significant... Ah, there's the contact. Well, they say commentators curse, and that was definitely commentators curse. Do apologize, guys. Taking a look just a little bit ahead. Loic Randebal going and getting into a fight with Martin Rotenbach. So Randebal trying to push as hard as he can. This is fighting for class position. So they're doing a fantastic job out there. Bit of orange flags coming in for Rich Van Heerden and Eric Kirstein. So let's see if we can also go back roughly about a minute and see where this all leads. Eric Kirstein in the BMW, Rich Van Heerden in the Ferrari 296. Fighting his way through. Does look around the inside, does look around the outside. Couldn't get it all sorted out there. Loses out a little bit of drive. Kirstein still looking okay. Had to just try and bring that rear into check. Couldn't get it all sorted out just as yet. And under braking extremely hard. Up on the inside. Little bit of unsettledness coming from Richard van Heerden while dealing with Eric Kirstein. Does look up on the inside. Oh, the two of them did come to blows, with Kirstein getting the worst of that operation compared to Richard. A little bit further up in the order, for fears of the Alpha 1 Esports, putting pressure on Justin Lotus from the Hybrid Academy team as he makes his way through. So Justin Lotus not going to back down from the fight, with Fafirs right behind him. These two used to be former teammates, now foes. So former allies to now current foes. I'm really saying former a lot. I do apologize. But it's going to be interesting. Fafirs coming through and showing off the new colors in the Alpha 1 Esports against the Hybrid Academy OG, if I can put it that way, for Justin Lotus as he chases down Hansi Myberg just ahead of him, trying to get a little bit more pace and recovering. Both LTR cars in the pits though, and Jason Farmer going and getting his pit stop done, and it looks like he's carrying the pit board with him as well. That's going to be a bit of a removal on that, and not quite exactly what you want to have stuck in the back of your vehicle. Taking a look at the Brandon Kruger car, chasing after Rian van der Race, and just seeing a little bit of interesting information coming from Teamvo, going and saying it's a collaboration between Ominous Gaming and the likes of the KSR team. So very good to see that we've got the teams working with one another. And Teamvo, I just want you to correct me. Ominous Gaming is a esports team that not only specializes in racing but in first-person shooters and also things like your MMOs similar to Dota and such. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong on that one with Ominous Gaming, but I've seen bits and pieces that you've been around. It reminds me of the team White Rabbit Gaming and those type of things, even what we had with ATK when they were racing in the series as well. Those multifaceted teams taking on esports on all fronts. It is a proper fight we've seen here with Ominous Gaming going and doing everything he can. Jean Leroux also keeping the pressure on Daniel Rowe. They're fighting it out for 4th and 5th. So our drivers having a stunning run at this moment, trying to push themselves that little bit more into the fight and just get a little bit closer to one another as time goes on. But we're starting to have time slowly ticking away. We're down to an hour and 1 minute as we see Brandon Kruger up on the inside of Rian van der Race, and Rian trying to come back at him. Couldn't get it all sorted out. Does look up to try and get past him. Not an easy run as they claw their way through. As it is a proper run for our drivers out on the circuit, needing to get one more charge. as we watch our drivers make their way through. It does look like Brandon Kruger starting to break away from Rian van der Race. Morde Claessens and Conrad Volsking going and fighting it out as they go and battle their way around. And it looks like Conrad Volsking trying to come back at him. And we're also having one of the other cars, one of our Ferraris, just deciding to venture off and visit the world of Valencia. So, drivers fighting their way through. Another little collision that has just popped up is Van Heerde and Marius Boertma. So, Marius Boertma in the Porsche, running out a little bit wide. And Van Heerde tries to look up on the inside, couldn't get it all sorted out. Boertma just leading the charge a little bit. And, oh, just that slightest of the contact. Did twist both around. And now they're trying to just get themselves reorganized, reshuffled, and back in racing. It does look like Boertma restarting the car and Van Heerde managing to get going once again. So the two of them not changing it out too much. An hour has, well, 30 minutes have now passed of this race, and we're into the next little bits, the little hour. Bernard Barkhuizen and Kieran Patterson still running very, very close to one another. Kieran keeping some pressure on Bernard Barkhuizen. Remember, they are leading the pros at this point. Then Van Heerde, who's currently battling it out as well, doing everything he can, with Heineke second of the Pro-Ams and Claessens third of the Pro-Ams. So drivers still on a hard press right here at Valencia, but gaps are starting to open between drivers as they wear down. Time starts to tick over as well as we start having the sun coming into effect. For anyone that isn't quite sure of how can a sun on a sim become a problem, well, just think about driving at sunset on the highway. You've got your shades on, you're enjoying it, but just as you come over the crest, it's in your eyes, it's blinding. You're trying to figure out what you can do, where the road goes. Well, this is what the same type of effect that the drivers are feeling as Brandon Kruger, a huge send on the inside. Rian van der Race trying to also do a big send, getting around one of our back markers as they fight their way through. Back up to first and second, Bernard Barkhuizen and Kieran Patterson still keeping that 0.4 of a second with one another. They're going to keep the pressure up. Mac van der Merwe, unfortunately, 15 seconds behind first and second place, and he's got Daniel Rowe closing up at a rate of knots onto the back of that McLaren. So he's going to do everything he can to keep up the charge as they fight their way through. Kieran Patterson into the tow. Bernard Barkhuizen trying his best to keep up the momentum, giving it everything he's got at this point to take on the fight ahead. And with both drivers haven't completed not a single one of their pit stops as yet, they will have to start considering when is it going to be the right time. What is the plan? What is the strategy? How much fuel have you taken? The first of the drivers that have completed, well, has done their first pit stop is Mahath Musa down in 20th position. So keep an eye on him, because that will be an identifying key to see whether the early pit stop strategy worked or not for the drivers. Mac van der Merwe got Daniel Rowe looking up on the inside. Daniel's going to keep it nice and tight. Couldn't get it all sorted out just as yet. He's going to try and keep a lot of pressure on that front nose of the BMW M4 GT3 car, with Mac van der Merwe just trying to stretch his legs out at this point and not having the race he would like to pull away from Daniel Rowe. But the KSR driver keeping it all focused at this point as they make their way through the final sector of Valencia. Long left-hander, got to keep the power on, onto the main straight, and this is where you can see the mighty BMW just get that little bit more drive tries to go around Mac van der Merwe, just couldn't get the drive. Mac going to the center of the circuit. Daniel Rowe will be on the outside. That's going to give him the advantage in the sweep to carry the momentum through if he can keep the power up. It does throw him slightly off circuit. Two of them still side by side. Mac's not going to back out from this fight. Daniel Rowe is going side by side. Trying again, going for a fourth time. Is it going to work? The two of them, though, having contact and come across the front nose of the likes of LaRue. LaRue getting a bit of contact there as well from the turnaround. Mac van der Merwe now needing to make up some distance. LaRue looks up on the inside of Daniel Rowe. He gets past without too much of an issue. And Daniel starting to drop down the order and is actually running into a bit of a problem, as we saw Jaco Nadir in the Ferrari, well, in the McLaren, no, Ferrari, I do apologize, try to go around him, but got caught out as well. Daniel Rowe losing our position to Kruger. I think Daniel Rowe is trying to give the position back, but in turn, he's actually bottling up the rest of the field that are trying to get around him, such as Nadir that came up at a rate of knots and suddenly had a car not going as quick as he would like. So Rian van der Race now putting the pressure onto the back of Daniel Rowe. Justin Lotus has got Verveers right onto the back of him. Mac van der Merwe, who is down with Quinn Duplessis for 10th place. So Mac van der Merwe, from fighting it out at the top, has now got to try and claw his way through, and he is in currently a 4-5 car fight. Daniel Rowe has lifted. He is allowing the drivers to come through, which well done on his part, but it has cost him severely in this race as we see contact with Verveers and Justin Lotus coming to blows. Let's go back to that. That was turn one, door to door. Not ideal situations, but all the drivers trying to just get round Daniel Rowe, who went from the likes of third place down to 9th position. Verveers did look to the inside and just had the nose twisted around. Did straighten up his competitor, Justin Lotus. But Justin, unfortunately, getting swamped back in the mess. He does have Daniel Rowe to get around him. And just getting ahead of the Porsche behind one of our back markers. Mac van der Merwe, though, getting overtaken by Quinn Duplessis, and Verveers immediately onto the back of him. He does look to go up on the inside of Quinn Duplessis. No fighting there. Verveers, though, is going to try and take the opportunity here. Going like an opportunist. Does manage to squeak on by until he's not. He lands off in the dirt. Quinn going and losing the drive. Daniel Rowe saying thank you very much. So he gets back into the fight with Mac van der Merwe. But Duplessis going to come back at him. Daniel Rowe pulling into the pits. He's going to get himself sorted out after that. And it also looks like Jaco Nadir as well in the pits, getting himself all checked out. This has turned into one heck of a race between all our drivers as they fight their way through. Jeroen Heineke trying to make his way around. He is hooked right behind Eric Kirstein as they're moving up. So our battles all starting to get a little bit more exciting for our drivers as they fight their way through. Eric Kirstein managing to just maintain a little bit of a gap over the likes of Heineke and Volskink, who you can be sure will be keeping a very close eye on when there's a perfect opportunity to get by. But now with the pit stops coming into play, Mahath Musa has come ahead of Daniel Rowe, who has just pulled into the pits. So Mahath Musa still leading out of everyone that has done their first pit stop. But Jason Farmer, let me not take away from Jason Farmer here. He's running in Pro-Am, but has completed all these pit stops. Same as Charles Darden and Jaco Nadir. They have completed all their pit stops, 51 minutes to go. So ideal situations is clear circuit, keep driving, and keep trying to push your way up through the order. So let's see how it's going to work out. Battle for 11th, 12th, and 13th position as we see Heineke trying to go and get around Eric Kirstein. Does lose out a little bit of drive as Kirstein drops the wheel off on the dirt. That's going to allow Heineke around the outside Can he get it all sorted out? He's going to send it. He's believing in the dragon of the MSI to try and get ahead of Eric Kirstein. Couldn't get the drive there, but Conrad Volsking immediately gets onto the back of him. And let's see if the KSR Hex is going to try and lock in Heineke into a bit of a situation. Does look up on the inside. Heineke does have to come off the back foot and backs out of the situation. Eric Kirstein, though, also running out wide. That has compromised his drive as they fight their way through. So absolutely well done on Volsking's drive to just create a little bit of a situation that doesn't favor Heineke into turn 1. But well done on Heineke actually going and backing off the throttle, not getting into the fight too much. He's going to rather concentrate on the battle at hand as they fight their way through. He's going to look for an opportunity as the 3-car train still goes on. On the brakes, trying to keep it all together. Looks up on the inside, couldn't get it all sorted out. Eric Kirstein a little bit earlier on the throttle with that BMW. And remember, these cars in the series are running to BOP, and far as I'm aware, a couple of the cars having some serious amount of BOP work done to them. And for anyone that isn't too familiar with BOP, that is balance of performance, as we see Eric Kirstein going and kicking off the wheel once again, losing out that little bit of drive. Volsking immediately onto the back of him. Kieran Patterson is into the pits, so he has left Bernard Barkhuizen out there high and dry, and he's getting his first pit stop done. Jean Leroux will be quite happy with that. He'll move into second place with Brandon Kruger immediately behind him, who will inherit that third place at this point. So Kruger now trying to keep up the pace, but where will the likes of Kieran Patterson come out? Because he needs to keep ahead of the likes of Mahath Musa, which I think he does with not a problem, actually. Because he has currently come out in 15th position. Mahath Musa, 19th position. So just getting a little bit more leg room than Mahath Musa as they fight their way out through the order. Bernard Barkhuizen, seeing this, has now pulled into the pits to try and stop the undercut that can come from the PWSR driver. Eric Kirstein and Volsking still very close to one another. Another little battle starting to form is Loureiro with Connor Bergstrom right behind him. Connor trying to keep the pressure onto the back of Loureiro for 16th and 17th position. So we still got some little battles starting to come into play. And taking a look at my timing, we do have our number 33 car that had a problem. Let's go and take a look what happened to Charles Darden. That gave a yellow flag highlight for Tim to go and point out. That's Martin Rotenbach trying to get it around in the Porsche. And outbraking himself right into the back of Charles Darden. I'm sure Darden wouldn't be too thrilled to have a Porsche-size hole. But that pit lane now starting to look very, very busy with all the cars pulling in. As we've now hit the 47-minute mark, as my teammate going and likes to say, and my old commentator, Jan van Price, going and saying that you want to get to the halfway mark and do your pit stop. Well, I think at this point, I wouldn't like to be in that pit lane because it is Santon traffic all the way through. Welcome to Guhuli's Interchange. You're going to sit in first gear at 50 k's an hour and hope to everything that you don't have a guy that's sleeping on the job or busy texting while driving. Kieran Patterson trying to make his way up through the order. He has got Bernard Barkhuizen ahead of him. Now remember, Bernard Barkhuizen did pull in the pits to try and cut him off, and it looks like it did work, with Kieran immediately back into that second place holding behind Bernard Barkhuizen, who managed to open up the gap, as they're both lying 11th and 12th position at the moment, but with their times of a 1:36.3 heading into 1:31 was their best time. Is just absolutely tremendous to see the guys fighting out, but they're going to have to work really, really hard at this point. Alan Patterson, though, will be keeping an eye on the fight, so Alan will watch in his review mirror and say, okay, Kieran, where you want to go, what's going to be the plan here, let me know where you need me to be. So Alan, who is in a position, there's off the rear wing And you can hear the lift off the throttle allows the drivers to go. And a little bit of forward thinking there of, listen, I'm not going to get too much into the fight here. Allow the cars to go, get back into the tow and pull myself along with that slight lift off the Lamborghini, that V10 going and taking a slight reprieve while he lets the Ferrari 296 of Kieran Patterson and Bernard Barkhuizen's McLaren 720S Evo 2 of the KSR factory team now booting their way around the order. Some battles going on for our top three, though, and that is Quinn Duplessis dealing with Mac van der Merwe. Remember, Mac also had contact earlier on. It seems like he's managed to pull himself through the order, and he had contact with the likes of Daniel Rowe down in 17th position. So Daniel Rowe is a long way out of this fight and will be focusing on the charge. All the drivers hoping to get a little bit more pace underneath them. As they fight their way around the circuit, coming past the pit lane, all the drivers doing everything they can to keep it up in order as they fight their way through. Our drivers doing a phenomenal job. Pit lane once again becoming very, very busy. Once again, our timing board going insane, updating, as you can see just in the quick shot there of how many cars are in the pits. And we will fight it out. LaRue coming out of the pits, and you can see Mahath Musa has also pulled into the pits. So he's trying to get himself sorted out. LaRue just losing out the pace to Van Heerden, who exits and gets going. So with our drivers now getting their first stops out the way, Quinn Duplessis is out needing to do 2 mandatory pit stops. So does Claessen's out in second place, needing to do his round of pit stops. Alan Patterson as well, also needing to get his pit stops done and dusted. Moving down the order, it does look like Boutma also needing to do the same. So Boutma needing to try and push himself that little bit harder to gain some valuable time on the rest of the field. Jean Leroux keeping ahead of Brandon Kruger as they still maintain. But let's take a look at who is sitting where currently for our Pro and Pro-Am. Duplessis currently leading out our Pro. Stop go, 30-second penalty for Mahath Musa. That is speeding in pit lane. Got off the button a little bit too early. He's now sitting with a 30-second penalty. That will drop him down the order and not exactly what he wanted. Being one of the drivers that took an early stop, it seems like he's going to make it a bit longer this time around. So Duplessis currently leading out for our pros. Second of our pros is Bernard Barkhuizen with Kieran Patterson immediately onto the back of him. Claessen's though moving out of the way. He is leading out our Pro-Am and will need to keep an eye out for the likes of Alan Patterson and Boutma, Marius Boutma, who actually gets past Alan Patterson. So Marius Boutma will be going up into second of our Pro-Ams as he makes his way around the circuit. Mahath Musa though will be kicking himself and will be trying to figure out what's going to happen there. Heineke keeping up the charge with Conrad Volksking right behind him. Conrad still keeping a huge amount of pressure onto the back of him, and each of them trying to fight their way through at this point. Justin Lotus also getting into a fight with Fafiers just ahead of him, and they're fighting out for 11th and 12th positions. So as we've now hit the 41-minute mark, it's all or nothing for these drivers to get themselves that little bit of pace. Boutma going and losing out the drive does allow Mac van der Merwe to get by. So what happened? Did he drop a wheel off on the dirt? Did he go out a little bit too wide? Let's find out, because Daniel Rowe and Mac van der Merwe got past him without too much of a difficult time. And yes, they are quite quick drivers, but Marius Boutma hasn't been the slowest of drivers around either. just out braking himself, goes out wide. I think he did also allow the drivers to come through and didn't want to get into a fight with those two, saying, I know where my fight is. Mine's to the Pro-Am. I'm going to let the pros go and keep up my charge. So thinking the long game in this one, as he wants to close down on Claessen's, who's way up the road, and still needing to do the pits, still do his first pit stop, so he's going to have to wait out quite a bit there. Mac van der Merwe right onto the back of Daniel Rowe as they fight their way through. Daniel Rowe still keeping up a good charge ahead of Mr. van der Merwe. Rian van der Race actually completing all his pit stops as well during this race, so he's getting it done and dusted hard under the braking zone. Under the back of Daniel Rowe, couldn't get it sorted out. Mac van der Merwe still keeping a sufficient amount of pressure onto the back of him, doing everything he can. Trying a little bit late on the brakes into the hairpin, goes out a little bit wide, late apex. That's not going to help you drive on the exit, but he's just doing anything to try and force a mistake at this point. Klaassen now into the pits. That will drop him down the order and get him closer to the likes of Boertmo, who's running in second of our Pro-Ams. Back up to the top of our pros, Kieran Patterson and Bernard Barkhuizen still running nose to tail as they fight their way through, each doing everything they can to try and psych out the competition, try and figure out what's going to work, and the amount of stress that will be going through both these drivers' heads at the moment is who's going to be able to take it out to the front of the wire. Each of the drivers focusing on their charge. It is still nose to tail between the two pros. Jean Leroux managing to get up onto the back of Brandon Kruger, and he will keep a positive charge there. Daniel Rowe and Mac van der Merwe, they still keeping close to one another. Verveers and Justin Lotus are also one of our closest battles out on circuit. But taking over from first place would be Boertmo, who has pit stopped. So Boertmo trying to undercut Klaassen ahead of him and will be completing all his pit stops. So Boertmo may, if this worked out, if he rolled the dice and didn't get snake eyes on it, he will be able to get the win in the Pro-Am class. It's a gamble. It is a proper gamble. He's relying on the likes of Richard van Heerden not to open up a gap. He's relying on Heineke not to open up a gap. It's all or nothing. I mean, you've got to take these gambles, but for round two, you've got to take the valuable pointers. Hansi Meiberg, who is venturing off the side of Valencia and just trying to do a bit of sightseeing on his way through. And we do know Hansi likes to go sightseeing a little bit, visiting the dirt, puts the sand between his toes, the usual story for Hansi Meiberg, but we've got to also take our hat off to him, and it is one of our admins right here at RaceFace.Pro. He is the admin for Assetto Corsa Competizione here at RaceFace.Pro. Does a huge amount of work in the Discord, and also does a huge amount of work behind the scenes, getting servers ready, drivers briefing, and usually also giving me a couple of gears for not being too nice to him on stream. So, sorry Hansi, we all love you though. Keep up the hard work. Let's go through the order though. Bernard Barkhuizen out in first place. Kieran Patterson in second. Third, Brandon Kruger, followed by Jean Leroux. Daniel Rowe, Mac van der Merwe in sixth. Seventh is Quinn Duplessis. Verveers in 8th. 9th going at the moment is Justin Lotus. Richard van Heerden doing a phenomenal charge with Ruan Heineke in 11th. 12th, Conrad Volskink, Ruan van der Race, Eric Kirstein, Sean Lerero, Mordred Klaassen, Daniel van Heerden, along with Jaco Krobler, Alan Patterson, Cameron de Bastos, Marius Boertmo. Where did Cameron de Bastos go? Wow. Okay. That was really unexpected from Tabasso source Cameron de Bastos. We do know the Sasquatch likes to play in the dirt, but not to that extent where he smashes up the front of the McLaren. It just looked like it pulled to the right and kept going. It jumped the curb, and that's all she wrote for that. Unfortunately, massive impact. We also did see a car a little bit ahead in the dirt as well. So, unfortunately, bottoming out on the curb did throw him out and smash the front end of that car to make it no longer the Panda he would like it to be. Panda City Machine, unfortunately, going and having pandas starting to become an extinct species at this point with that sort of impact. As we now starting to hit a little bit of a slower period of the drive. Still drivers keeping within 1 second of one another, but this is now where they're trying to eye each other out. Who's going to be able to carry the pace through till the end? Who's going to be able to march their way to the front of the order? And with the one mandatory pit stop to go, you can see all the drivers leaning into that pit lane, trying to bait one another into going into the pits and hoping that they can get their way through. The current leaders, Bernard Barkes and Kieran Patterson, leading out our pro class. Leading out our pro-am is actually Rich Finiera, who is doing a great job out there. And it does look like Heineke will be running in. No, I think Heineke's actually dropped out of that order. So it will be Loureiro currently in second place for our pro-am, with Mordred Claassen leading out our, well, finishing up in third place of our pro-ams at this point. If all stays the same, it's still touch and go out there here at Valencia. The sun's starting to become a factor. Corners starting to become harder and harder to see as the sun comes through the windscreen. You have to squint your eyes, try and figure out what is going to work, and you can't really just put your shades on and that will make it all go away. And especially when you come to more of the higher end PCs, the guys running those ultra graphics for immersion, well, that means the sun works just as well as ultra graphics and for full immersion. You will be looking into it, you will be racing blind, and you're going to have to try and figure out what's going to work for you. Mac van der Merwe, Daniel Rowe, they're still keeping the pressure on one another. 34 minutes to go. Bernard Barkes and Kieran Patterson doing exactly the same, running nose to tail at this point, and just trying to keep the slipstream. Bernard Barkes and going and trying to move left to right to ensure that he can get a little bit more momentum. Looks up on the inside, couldn't get it all sorted out there, and we'll have to try go around the outside. But Barkhuizen keeping a very defensive drive as he keeps on going right here at the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship, powered by SA Lube. You heard me right, SA Lube now behind our GT3 Championship right here at RaceFace.Pro. Absolutely awesome stuff to see the real world coming and blending in with our virtual world, and we are excited to have them on board with this great partnership. And going forward, there is going to be many, many more. So go and take a look at SA Lube, one of the biggest distributors for Castrol lubricants, and one you want to keep an eye out for, with 20 years of service here in South Africa. They're going and ensuring that everything can keep smooth, especially out for our sim racers out there who, yes, we do not go and put oil in our machines just as yet. We have seen machines, computers running on cooking oil. It doesn't really work out as planned, but we do have some water-cooled machines as well. Jaco Nadir going and moving his way around and trying to get a little bit more drive. Mac van der Merwe going and fighting out as Duplessis does look to the inside, keeping it very, very tight. He tried putting his nose in, but there was no give whatsoever at this point between the two of them, as Duplessis not backing down from the fight. Van der Merwe right onto the back of Daniel Rowe as they start to build up their train and look to get a little bit more pace out of them. They're fighting it out for 5th, 6th and 7th, while our leaders 1st and 2nd still running line astern at this point. They are just trying to keep the momentum up, but this little 3-car battle here, well, this isn't running line astern, this isn't running in formation flying, this isn't even going and saying, I'm going to wait for you to box. This is, I'm going to take the fight to you no matter what. Between Duplessis and Mac van der Merwe. Mac has got the inside line. Does he go out wide? Duplessis does go for the cutback though. Gonna line himself up on the inside for turn 2. Gets it booked in nice and tight through the hairpin. Can he stretch it out a little bit? Both keeping a car's width between the two of them. Mac van der Merwe still going side by side. Will have the advantage. goes out wide a little bit, gets a bit tail happy. That allows Duplessis to go once again look for the inside line. As the two of them going blow to blow with one another. This is some serious driving between Mac van der Merwe and Duplessis. And Duplessis not backing down from the fight. Will go side by side once again with Mac van der Merwe into the hairpin though. He will have the advantage. Mac losing out the drive. Will have to try and come back at him. Gets into the slipstream, trying to pull himself along with the toe. But these two are going to war at one another. And Daniel Rose going, fine, you do that. I'm not going to argue too much. Conor Bergstrom also going and landing up with a yellow flag. Let's see what happened to him. I think he did a little bit of an off-track moment. Well, a little bit of contact. Very, very slight. With one of our Ominous Gaming Ferrari 296s. The Panda City just having a little scuffle there. Nothing too bad. Just enough to share a bit of green on his silver. So some awesome racing between them all. But drivers trying to find any advantage possible. As we go back to the main race. Connor and Loic Randall coming to blows. And that literally has just happened between the two of them. As they go side by side. What's going to happen? Loic trying to look for the inside line. And Connor just keeping ahead of them. That did promote Alan Patterson up. Oh, slight contact on the rear. Left of the car. Just enough to turn him around and put enough pressure on the tyres. That's going to slide him out and hurt the tyres over time. Not ideal what you want to have. Kieran Duplessis losing out to Mac van der Merwe. And did have an off-track excursion. Let's see if we can see what happened there. As Mac van der Merwe did get by Duplessis. But I think Duplessis gets a little bit of a tank slapper. And that little bit of a slide out cost him some time to Mac van der Merwe. I think that was that yellow flag that kicked up on our live timing screen. Going and warning it up. So, going to be a monstrous fight. Cameron saying, unfortunately, try to fix damage. Wheel not even straight and massive dead zone. So, unfortunately, Cameron de Bastos running into a bit of a problem. Well, Cameron, but the commentary box is open to you. I'd love to get a bit of a chat with you and just find out, just to give us some one-on-one thoughts, if you don't mind, of what happened out there for the car, and also to explain the new team that you're with, the Panda City Racing as well, because we're seeing a couple of your teammates doing a phenomenal job on circuit, and this being their debut season in RaceFace.Pro, I think maybe a little bit of background history would be very much appreciated by all of us right here in the grandstands and out both in present and in future. Unfortunately, yeah, just not the season yet. It will be your season. Murphy doesn't always sit around for too long, buddy. So we're going to bring Cameron de Bastos up into the chat. Cameron de Bastos, welcome. And not quite the race that you wanted to have. It's we saw you hooked to curb and suddenly the car snapped underneath you. Not much could be done there. Take us through what happened in that situation, bud.
Yes, evening Stephen and evening everybody. Yeah, it's just one of those things. This week just had everything going on at the same time, and couldn't spend much time working out the setups and stuff. But yeah, the car was feeling well. The first part was quite well. Just this track with its track limits is very, very strange. Even the smallest amount just gives you a penalty, and just fortunately for some reason just didn't want to hook in as it did before, and yeah, just sent me towards the wall even though I tried to keep it out of it. Went to the pits to fix the damage, and for some reason the wheel just didn't want to be straight, so that forced a bit of a dead zone between going a bit left and center, so it just created a massive understeer moment and drive through, and decided to call it for the night.
Come back fighting next time. This is Kieran Patterson and Bernard Barkhuizen, who are fighting out for first place, suddenly coming to blows with one another through the corner, and both of them getting tipped around. That will allow, like, Brandon Kruger to make up some time. But I want to also bring up something rather interesting. Eric Hussein with a drive-through penalty has just come up on screen. But Panda City Racing, this is the first time for the team. It's a debut season right here in RaceFace. And if lead me to believe, it is actually an overseas team that approached South Africans to say, hey, listen, we want you to be part of the Panda City Racing team. How did this all happen?
Pendacity, unfortunately, it's proudly a local South African team.
Okay, so it's local. All right.
Yes, it's a born and bred pure South African team. We're relatively new. Even though we're quite well known in terms of our Valorant and Rocket League teams, where we have done quite well there. Xavier, the owner of Pendacity, decided to reach out to local communities, just ask, you want to start, first it was only Pro-Am and Am classes, but you also needed to pull in some more experienced drivers just to help get the new guys up to pace, which we have done quite successfully, I would say, with a number of people, and yes, so approached the RaceFace, ask around, and we both myself, Werner Skuman, and Jaco Grobler decided to let's help build up a new team, get more people into sim racing, and that was the birth of Pendacity Esports, with myself and Werner making up the pro team, and Jaco and Mondre Klaassen making up our Pro-Am team. And it's a little something funny, Stephen. Mr. Mondre Klaassen, currently sitting in P15, just dropped into P16 there. He is an old Valorant player, and he is holding his own out here amongst the pros, doing quite well, which is a proud thing for us all to say, for new people.
Well, I've got to say, it's fantastic to see more and more teams coming in that are professional teams in esports that we usually see, as you've mentioned, from Valorant side, even right into the Call of Duty, Dota, all those type of things. Even Ominous Gaming being one of those teams that are stretching themselves out into new facets. And I've got to ask, I mean, it must be interesting discussions to talk to the guys that come from these different worlds, that how they behave compared to the likes of our sim racing. It's got to be a kind of a refreshing approach with, and also at the same time, giving to show the ropes, I'm sure, in the world of sim racing, to say, hey, look, we're not worried about throwing a flash or attack, or going for, everyone rush B, or maybe throw a smoke and then just wipe it out with a grenade that eliminates the smoke in CSGO. Not salty at all, or zero build in Fortnite. But having the different competitors coming in, has it been a challenge for them to get into the world of sim racing, to recognize the different ways that it goes? Or do you think that they've picked up the reaction times and everything needed well beforehand, so it's easier to step into the boots of sim racing?
Well, Stephen, luckily we are fortunate enough with them, that they, even with esports like Valorant and CS:GO, as you mentioned there, the reaction times coming from those games carry over even to sim racing, with the split second decision making in terms of pit stop or where you need to brake and stuff. So that's something that translates well. It's something that I've noticed multiple times with multiple drivers. Taking a look at some of previous drivers, such as what's his name now? AJ Lecoq, an old CS pro, decided to hang up his CS mantle and take up sim racing, and definitely made a massive impact with the teams that he was with. And it's not even, most people would think that taking up new people, exposing them to sim racing is a bit of a hassle. But it's not a hassle if it's something that you love. That's something that you can just, if you're passionate about it and you're willing to help everybody, and if you are eager to learn, that just makes the job 10 times easier.
No, well, that's the way to put it, and absolutely great to have it now. I know you got your team out there, and obviously you want to give a bit of support to. Before I let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? It was Valentine's Day yesterday, so we're going to have a bit of a post-Valentine's Day you can give a shout out to, because, well, let's be honest, sim racing during this sort of week, we've got to be a little bit of caring to our partners out there that gave us the opportunity with everything.
Yes, so luckily for me, the only Valentine's I have for myself is my beautiful McLaren and the sim rig at this moment in time. But as we see Randabal almost taking out my teammate there, Loic, I know where you live, I will fly there and I will hit you with a shoe. No, so yeah, just happy Valentine's to everybody there, all the people who are close to my heart. They know who they are. Very thank you for everything that you've done to me, and thoughts and prayer to everybody out there who's going through some tough times. And yeah, somebody special. I have to say, Mr. Loic here, he's my Mauritian Valentine, my friend from far away. Just great to see him making some great headway here with the Omnius Gaming team.
Yeah, I'm sure you're also wishing that car, your teammate's car and his car is missing wheel arches and a little bit more exposed type of racing. But I think that's something we'll talk about on a Tuesday coming up next week for the iRacing side of things. But right here for the RaceFace GT3 Championship Season 17, brought to you by RaceFace and powered by SA Lube. Thank you very much for your visiting here, and please pass on to the rest of the team. Really looking forward to what they can do, and hopefully sometime I can also chat to the Penacity team and get to know the drivers right there.
Yes, I believe as soon as the endurance season comes around, then if they're out of car, they'll probably pop in and say hi. But yeah, it's always a pleasure to pop in, say hi, and with Daniel in the chat saying I feel betrayed now. Daniel, you are all the way in somewhere in the Cape. You are not my you're not my Valentine.
We're going to have Daniel coming in shortly to come and have a chat, considering his teammate Kieran Patterson currently running in second place. I'm sure that he wants to go and talk about it all. And also, we got Thriller Miller out on the circuit, who was doing a fantastic job along with Alan Patterson. So I'm sure we'll have De Villiers coming in shortly. So De Villiers, you know where the commentary box is. You've been here for more than enough times. Don't need to get things going. And like Cameron, you guys know where the kettle is. But Cameron, thank you very much for joining in the commentary box for this evening for round 2 right here at Valencia.
It's a pleasure, Stephen. Good one. Cheers.
Absolutely incredible stuff. This is Bernard Barkhuizen and Kieran Patterson still going and throwing hands at one another, trying to make up a bit of ground. Charles Darden, we saw in the background there, trying to make a bit of a move. Daniel De Villiers saying, unfortunately, battery low. He's got load shedding, and that is why he's out of the running, but he's watching it from afar, so he is sharing the love and standing in the grandstand saying, don't worry, guys, I'm here. And that is exactly what we like to see. We like to see these guys that can support from afar despite not being there. And also, like when we had Cameron earlier in the box chatting, supporting his drivers despite having the incidents going on and having the problems with his car, he is still putting out the support to the teams, which is having a great time out there. Jaco Krobler having a great time. He's onto the back of Mahath Musa at this point as they chase their way down through the order. And Krobler not backing out of the fight. Let's take a look at who's sitting where for our Pro and Pro-Ams. Sitting with our Pros, Bernard Barkhuizen, Kieran Patterson, and Jean Leroux is our top 3 for our Pros. And moving into our Pro-Ams, Richard van Heerde, along with Alan Patterson, second place. I told you, one of our fastest ACC voices that we have. He's currently showing off what he can do in the Lamborghini with Heineke running in 3rd place for the Pro-Ams, doing everything he can. So this will be a proper run for them. But this is going to be a proper run for all the drivers. And Daniel's saying, unfortunately, running into a bit of issues there, but he will be back. You can't get rid of the Hitman. This is unfortunately a bit of a problem for Paulo Teles, as he was doing a phenomenal job, and then the Porsche landing up into the weeds. And is it like everyone else? Snap coming out, and oh, just a little bit of a bump into the wall. Thankfully, not too much damage like we've seen with others, but definitely not what we want to see. Oh, too much on the throttle. And donuts round. Just has to try and settle it down. It's always one to try and calm yourself down after that. Is definitely a monstrous fight. A bit of a battle going on. Van Heerden and Conrad Volsking. We've been talking about Volsking during the course of the race. The KSI Hicks driver having a great run. Now going side by side with Van Heerden, as the two of them also getting a little bit elbows out. The Ferrari giving a bit of love to the McLaren. The two of them not giving an inch at this point. And Van Heerden, if we go on board his helmet cam, we could see taking a proper look on the inside. Braking and cornering at the same time always upsets the car, and you see it getting chucked around as he looks to try and get past Volsking. Taking a look at Kieran Patterson's car, you can see a little bit more calm and relaxed, taking as much of the circuit is needed. Outbraking himself a little bit, missing the apex. Not too wild behind the steering, a lot more calm in that Ferrari compared to the competitors behind him, but still putting in a monstrous amount of work. Alan Patterson sitting 11 seconds behind Rich Van Heerden. So Richard at the moment for RVH Racing needs to keep the power on and focus on the charge, because they have completed all their pit stops. 145, that is one of our Pandasti cars landing up with a problem. Let's see if we can go and see a quick replay of what happened there. I'm sure Cameron's going to be sitting going, come on, you can do it. Little mistakes like this, just put it behind you and see what can work. Oh, just that rear snap out on the curbing, and just had to try and get that car sorted out, get himself turned around and get back into the fray. So good to see him going and doing whatever he can at this point. Our top 6 still needing to do the final pit stop with only 13 minutes to go. It is all or nothing for our drivers as they launch their way through. And Volsking and Van Heerden still on top of one another. Bernard Barkhuizen and Kieran Patterson are still fighting out between one another. And that is our 2 closest battles on circuit, only separated by 0.2 of a second between first and second, and also 12th and 11th. Yellow flags being waved, and that was for Musa. What happened to Musa? Our BMW driver from Project Vapor, unfortunately getting into a little bit of a problem. Let's see what happened to him. Trying to fight his way through, a little bit of a slide. He's able to bring it back. Oh, too early on the power, and the rear just stepping out. And unfortunately, instead of trying to reverse back onto the circuit and try and reverse around, he's going to rather wait it out, get it towed back to pits, and will leave the pit lane safely from there. Kieran Patterson, though, pulling the trigger early. 12 minutes to go, and leaving Barkhuizen out on the circuit now. This is where it's going to be interesting. Barkhuizen pulled in a lap later than Kieran Patterson and still managed to maintain the gap. Will it be the case this time around between the two drivers as they fight their way through? So Bernard Barkhuizen out in front. Jean Leroux will be taking that second place away from Kieran Patterson if Kieran doesn't leave the pits. But in saying that, Kieran's like, no, buddy, I'm going to leave the pits now. This is not going to happen. Will it be enough to keep ahead of Leroux? He's going to come out into some very busy traffic. And Kieran just ahead of one of our ominous gaming cars, fighting it out right behind him. And Leroux now seeing Kieran right behind him, will be on a charge to try and make up a bit of ground, but he has to get past the Ferrari 296 just ahead of him. And that is Loic Randabel who is ahead of him. So Loic now needing to keep up the pace, or will give a little bit of room to allow our third place driver to get past. Blue flags are waving, and how it works for blue flags is you have to maintain a predictable racing line for our drivers. As Bernard Barkhuizen tried coming into the pits. Oh boy, that nearly did not work out to plan. I mean, let's go back 30 seconds there and take a look from his helmet, as he's got one of the Panassi cars that went out a little bit wide. He tried to come across the front of the nose and nearly had a bit of contact between the two of them, and it was incredibly close. Paolo moving out the way, that caused one of our drivers to go out a little bit wide. Tries to bring it across, had to second guess a little bit there, trying to wait for the car and a clear gap to get past. So he is now in the pits and now heading out. Here comes Kieran Patterson. This is going to be very close between them as they look to go into turn one. Side by side they go. Kieran not backing out from the fight, will get ahead. Barkhuizen tries to look up at the inside, contact between the two. Kieran's able to bring it back. Barkhuizen not going to back out, will go and give a little bit of room to say, okay, well, that was my fault, but I'm not going to give you all the room. Loic Randabel still in the fight. LaRue also back into this fight. LaRue, though, needing to do a pit stop. So is Daniel Rowe. Mac van der Merwe and Justin Lotus still need to do their final pit stops. So LaRue will have to keep an eye on where Daniel Rowe is going to be, where Mac van der Merwe and Justin Lotus are going to be by the end of this. But our leaders currently out front with 9 minutes to go. Very, very close to one another. Kieran Patterson trying to open up the gap and do everything he can to break away. Conrad Volkswagen and Van Heerden still going and pushing one another as they are battling it out. And I do want to point out, Van Heerden is currently first of our Pro-Ams, taking on one of our pros. And wow. Well, this is some seriously close racing. But Van Heerden managing to get past. And that is Dinesh Van Heerden. Sorry, he is actually one of our pros. Richard Van Heerden is our Pro-Am. So the family going and keeping it. And Daniel de Villiers, I think, is sitting with his heart in his throat at this point. And watching his teammates and going, listen, that was a bit too close for comfort. Loic Randabel with a drive-through penalty. Connor Bangstrom with a drive-through penalty. And Paolo with a drive-through penalty. That is for track limits being exceeded. And that will be taking them out of a couple of fights as well. Sure, they will be kicking themselves a bit of it. But as Cameron went and brought up, the track limits on the circuit is rather excessive at the best of times. And you've got to be so careful, tippy-toe the whole way through. Van Heerden, that is Donnie Van Heerden dealing with Conrad Volkswagen, both fighting out with the pros for 11th and 12th position. Paolo into the pits to serve his drive-through penalty, and will be hoping to get a charge. Side-by-side action between Quinn and Mac van der Merwe. These two gonna still go at it once again, side by side, and this is 9th and 8th place that are going side by side. Not often do we get to see these two drivers come to blow, but there is no gap between the two of them, and Mac van der Merwe losing out the drive to Duplessis as he gets a little bit more of pace underneath him. Wow. The drive is on for every single one of these drivers. 7 minutes to go, and you've got to pull a rabbit out of the hat. You really got to lean into the fight here as Paolo comes across the nose of Kieran Patterson. Oh boy, Kieran Patterson having a too close to call moment with Paolo in the Porsche. This is on board with Kieran Patterson. Paolo coming out of the pits, touches the dirt, loses out the drive. Kieran seeing him in the distance, closing up a bit of pace, and Paolo getting a snap oversteer, swings across Kieran Patterson's nose. Oh boy, was that too close for comfort for both drivers, and Bernard Barkhuizen going and capitalizing on it. Sure, Daniel, the Hitman de Villiers saying somebody call an ambulance because many people are going to need it at this point. I have to agree on that one. I'm on the edge of my seat watching the racing, as moments like this is what you live to see and what you live to have as a commentator, is this close racing, this unpredictable moments that have you guessing every moment that is happening. And this is what we come to expect at the RaceFace GT3 Championship. This is season 17, now powered by SA Lube, and I've got to say, SA Lube, if this isn't giving you the fight that you want to see, the action, well, I don't know where else you're going to be looking, because the virtual racing is definitely going to be putting in a monstrous fight. Wow, the cheeks in my face are currently hurting from smiling so much with the racing that we've been viewing tonight. What started off as a little bit of a rough situation, once again, I do apologize for the technical difficulties, has now turned into some of the most incredibly exciting racing that you're going to be seeing this season at the moment. I can't speak for the future because anything can happen. Loic Randabel still needs to do a drive-through penalty. He needs to get it sorted out. Connor has just done his drive-through penalty. LaRue currently in third place. Daniel Rowe and Justin Lotus still needing to get their pit stops. Two Hybrid Academy drivers and the likes of the KSR Hex driver needing to get into the pits to get their pit stop done and dusted, but they are waiting on one another at this point of who's going to pull the trigger first. Kieran Patterson, though, leading out the pros, along with Bernard Barkhuizen. Leading out our pros is Rich Frenietta. Alan Patterson in second place. Oh, Bernard tries to look to the inside line. Kieran walks him to the fringes, trying to keep him at bay. That does compromise his exit out of turn one. He goes for the inside line. Barkhuizen stuck on the outside. Side by side they go. And Ruben van der Race getting a drive-through penalty right towards the end of this race. But we are keeping an eye on the lead because Kieran is now just all out punching above his weight belt. He is really pulling out all the stops. Bernard Barkhuizen is going and doing the tango behind that Ferrari. It is just incredible right here at Valencia. Barkhuizen in the tow will need to try and close down the gap with 3 minutes and 24 seconds to go. It is all or nothing for these drivers. Daniel Rowe has completed his his final pit stop. That leaves LaRue and Lotus to do their final pit stops. But I do not want to take my eyes off the action because these two are in a solid fight with one another. And I want to know out there in the grandstands, to all of you currently watching, to all the spectators, well, as Daniel said, it's Lauda versus Hunt. It's Michael Schumacher out there, McLaren versus Ferrari. I mean, we are dealing with the heights of it. This is even going for the newer generation. This is a fight between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen that we've seen, because they are not leaving any love lost on this circuit. But to out everyone in the chat, I want to see the support. I want you guys to shout out who you think will be able to take the checkered flag. Who are you supporting? To all the people out there on the grandstands. And I'm going to use a line straight out of WWE for the early 2000s, and for many people that don't know it, well, too bad for you. If you haven't watched it, I want to hear to all the millions and millions and millions of fans out there, let me hear your voices. Shout it out as we see for the final 1 minute and 54 seconds. It is a second gap between first and second. This is going to be a proper run down to the wire. It does look like Kieran has gone for it. And Oh, my heavens. Claessens, though. Oh, my heavens. Scoring a drive-through penalty in the final minute for the Pandacity team. He has been on the charge. He has tried everything he can. He is running currently 5th in the Pro-Ams. This drive-through will go and wipe him out of it. He has to try and stick it all the way through. Everyone at this point is trying to go through it. And that is Jim giving us the final call. He is saying that they are doing the final lap. LaRue in the pits for his final pit stop. As we saw our Pandacity driver Claessens get in. So one more lap to go. Bernard Barkhuizen, Kieran Patterson, 1.3 seconds between them. Lisa Patterson saying, "Go, my boy," as she's cheering on Kieran at this point. Bernard Barkhuizen will have his entire team of the KSR team jumping, shouting, wanting the driver to do well. And Quinn Duplessis, no, getting a drive-through penalty right before the end. He had it with Mac van der Merwe, and now it has started Claessens with a stop-go 30-second penalty. There is 15 seconds of the race, and Claessens with a stop-go 30-second penalty. He got off the button too early. This is just turning into a race. Everyone in panic mode. It is frantic, not only in the grandstands, it's frantic in the pits, it's frantic in the cars. I can tell you right here in the tower, everyone is going mad as we see the final time. But with one corner to go, Kieran Patterson has taken the win right here at Valencia, ahead of Bernard Barkhuizen, who comes across the line. Brandon Kruger for the KSR factory team, and teaming up with Ominous Gaming, will be taking third of our pros as LaRue. No? What happened to Kruger? No! Ladies and gentlemen, Kruger just disconnected. Brandon Kruger just disconnected. He missed out, taking third place, and that will then be given to LaRue of KSR Hex. Has just taken third place as Kruger disconnected on the final corner. Daniel Rowe taking 4th place. Mac van der Merwe in 5th. Verveers taking 6th. Lotus taking 7th place. Rian van der Race taking 8th. Van Heerde taking 9th. Conrad Forsking taking 10th place. Quinn Duplessis taking 11th for pros. First of our Pro-Ams will go to Richard van Heerde of RVH Racing. Alan Patterson taking 2nd place of our Pro-Ams. Heineke taking 3rd place of our Pro-Ams at this point. No, they still in the race. Our Pro-Ams are still going. Richard will now take the win. Alan will take 2nd place ahead of Heineke. I called it a little bit too early there. Claessens getting a 60-second penalty on top of his time. Wow. I don't know what to say, folks. I really don't know what to say with that one. But Kieran Patterson taking the win, and that's right here at Valencia. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to look. I'm out of breath. I am seriously out of breath. Kruger on the final corner, having the power go out, takes him out of the race. LaRue taking that win, taking the 3rd place spot, even though he was far away from it. It all looked like that was going to be it. Wow. I'm stunned. I am really, really stunned. But I mean, let's bring in a couple of the drivers. Let's get a bit of interviews here, folks, because we need to chat to our drivers on this amazing race. First to bring in Luke Randabel. Welcome to the commentary box. What a race out there. Let's kick it off with what a race. You were in some proper side-by-side battles. A little bit of nose contact, a little bit of rear contact. I mean, sharing a bit of paint is something you're not too foreign with. You know how to rub doors with people, and others do the same. But you had a race of note. How are you feeling? Are you worn out?
A bit. I mean, okay, yeah. Ideally, with the rubbing, I don't really want to do that. But things happen. It is what it is. With the race, however, it's a big what if, because lap 1, turn 1, I got caught up in the wreck ahead of me, and basically just did from last to God knows where. So that was fun.
Oh, I mean, that was an incredible race. I mean, take us through that. Once you got halfway through the race, it just seemed like the pace started to pick up. The drivers getting a little bit more busy, but you also had the mix of fields, the sharp end of the field fighting with the back end of the field. It seemed like you were just forever duking it out with door-to-door racing with everyone around you.
Yeah, no, it was okay. It was not ideal for what I was trying to do, which was just catch up to Alan, catch up to what's his name, Ron. But yeah, I was just in the trenches, just filled with bad luck, and then just the drive-through at the end of it. Just not ideal. But I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to, if I can say it on broadcast, but I will say it anyways. Basically, where before number 10 got their drive-through the lap before, I came out the pits. I said I will cream my pants if I see number 10 getting a drive-through. And next lap later, it was unbelievable.
It was there. I mean, what a race on your side, and I mean, what a way to show off the team as well. They've all done an incredible job. You guys went out in full force this evening. Before I let you go, is there anything you would like to say out to the crowd? Keep it PG-13, and I mean, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to say GG to everyone. GG's to Kieran, I believe he won, correct? If that's correct.
Yes,
GG to
he won
the Pro-Am podium as well.
That's
and also, I am going to be back proper next week. I barely practiced for this. Next week I'm back.
You're going to come back in full force, and that's it. We will see you going and fighting it out, hook, line, sinker.
Indeed, and hopefully not get caught up by bad luck like I did today.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Loic, and well done on the race.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Moving on, let's bring Kieran Patterson into this. Kieran Patterson of PWSR. First of all, your dad getting second place for the Pro-Ams is an exciting moment, but your race, I mean, nose to tail for majority of the race with Barclays, and then towards the end, you had to get a little bit elbows out, walking each other to the fringes of the circuit, side-by-side moments right the way through. And only when it came down to the second last lap did you have enough breathing room. That was the only time that you guys were separated by more than 1 second. The rest of the time, other than your pit stop, you were 0.2, 0.3 of a second throughout the race. How are you feeling? You must be worn out.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling it quite a bit. I haven't had many races like that where you put someone under pressure for 90 minutes non-stop and they manage to hold on. So serious respect and praise goes to Bernard for that race. Yeah.
I mean, you had to pull out every trick out of the book that you have gained through the years of racing. You had to walk him to the fringes. You had to really try and walk him to the outsides, walk him onto the marbles, try box him into the back markers that you guys were trying to get around. But it just seemed like whatever was going on was just the comeback was always there, and you had to work your way through. What a lot of people are going to be asking is, how are you feeling after having a Porsche go and lose it in front of you, and you narrowly missed? I don't know how you did it, but even Daniel de Villiers says he needs an ambulance at this point.
Yeah, when I saw the Porsche lose it, I thought, finally, when I get in front, and now I'm going to drive into the back of a back marker, and that's going to be the end of the race. It's like, where was that bit of luck for the other way around? But Thankfully, he kept his foot on the throttle, I believe, and we went around it. So yeah, thankfully, I didn't do the T-bone attack on him.
But I'm sure you at that point just took a deep breath and just closed your eyes and just waited to feel either a thud through the steering and a thud in the ears. I mean, it was a split second, but I'm sure for you it felt like an eternity until you cleared that car.
Yeah, it really did. It's that scenario of put your foot flat and just pray that he keeps rolling on through. If you hit him, you hit him. If you don't, you don't. And luckily, I landed on the clear side.
Well done with it. Taking a win once again right here at RaceFace for the GT3 Championship Season 17, Round 2 at Valencia. Now powered by SA Lube, which is just great and putting on a phenomenal show for the sponsor. But what's the game plan into next week? You've seen Bernard is ready to take the fight to you. It does look like a lot of the field is willing to really put it out on the line this season. You guys are in for a proper run. What's the plan for you as a driver, but also for the PWSR team to maintain the pace that you had here tonight?
Yeah, it's great to see all the pace from everyone, and it's great to see the competitions getting stronger and stronger as we all move on in our careers of sim racing. For us as a team, we've always stuck by the strategy of always perfect your race pace and looking after the car, look after your tires. That scenario. Our quali pace is never always up there. We very seldomly do we get all the cars up in the top. So yeah, it's always a scenario of wherever you quali, just make sure that we're going forward in the race, and at the end of the day, then it's a positive for us. So yeah, that's mainly what we focus on.
Well, Kieran, in usual fashion, keep a PG-13. You're allowed to add a bit of spice. It was just Valentine's Day yesterday, so you can add a bit of love as well. Microphone is yours, floor's yours. You have everyone at home watching you now and in the future, all waiting on what you say. Kieran Patterson, the winner of our pros tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks again for the stream and the commentary, and thank you to everyone for the support. Obviously being Valentine's Day yesterday, as you said, so thank you to my partner in crime for always supporting me in my hobby of sim racing. And again, a huge congrats to Bernard. It was a ridiculously tight race, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. GG's to everyone as well for the race, and looking forward to next week.
Absolutely incredible. Thank you very much, Kieran Patterson, and well done for all the racing this evening. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are going to be calling it there. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Thank you so much for your patience, especially with the technical difficulties. But we will be back up to full steam come next week. Next week, Tuesday, we do have our iRacing. That will be our Clios going out and racing. On our Thursday, we'll have the RaceFace GT3 Championship coming back to you live on a Thursday, so keep an eye out to that. This weekend, you can also keep an eye out on the Motorsport South Africa channel as our RaceFace drivers, the same cars that you have seen out on the circuit, well, the same drivers you've seen out on the circuit, will be representing South Africa in the first MSA Africa Cup Esport race. So representing South Africa, looking with over 90 entries at this point that will be duking out. Looking forward to seeing how they all represent. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the amazing racing we have right here at the world of RaceFace.Pro, brought to you, and for our GT3 Championship, brought to you by SA Lube. Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Koenig. And like always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.